Hey everyone, Coach Vuyanzi here. Welcome to Find Your Voice with Coach Vuyanzi. Before I go on, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow wherever you're watching this. Let's get on with it. Today I had an abrupt change in my life. And I called one of my friends, just to tell her what had just happened. Sorry, I'm not ready to fully share what it is. And she reminded me of something, and that was the vacuum law of prosperity. The vacuum law of prosperity. So it made me go back and get my book. I don't know if you can see it that way, but it's called The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. And why did I pick up this book? Because I knew in it was a chapter about the vacuum law of prosperity. And now I know that may sound a little bit funny, but listen to it so that you're understanding it. I want you to imagine that you want more in your life. So if you want greater good or greater prosperity, you need to make room for that which you want. So you have to get rid of stuff to make room for what it is that you do want. And my friend reminded me, my friend Mingy, and she said, this is just making room. It was very involuntary. However, ironically, or maybe not so ironically, I had just done a visualization this morning, and really, to explain it the best way I can, the way the visualization worked, it didn't include the thing that abruptly ended in my life today. So you're seeing, I did a visualization of a future self me, and that did not include the thing that abruptly ended. So I guess we can say the universe was conspiring for me to get that which I desired. And really, it looks like the vacuum law of prosperity. So let's get into it and really understand what this law is, because this could help you too. And instead of having things abruptly happen to you, you can choose to voluntarily get rid of some things in your life to make room for new ones. So let's go. While it may sound simple when we say getting rid of things to make room, let's just think of a practical example. Let's say you want to change your wardrobe. You want it to fit with the woman that you are becoming, queen. Well, then you don't say, you don't wait, but you get rid of those clothes in your closet now, especially those ones with tags that you're not wearing and that no longer fit your style, whether they fit you or not, but they just don't fit the woman that you're becoming. So you actually get rid of that. And I know that may seem maybe not that scary, but what are you doing? You're physically making room. A couple of other things came up for me. And one was relationships. I've openly talked about the last boyfriend that I had. Not like there haven't been a lot, but the last guy I was dating, and it came a point that I needed to consider that I did not want what he had to offer. I'm trying to be careful of my words here so I don't badmouth anyone, but I did not want what he was offering. And so what did I have to do? I needed to, insert the vacuum law of prosperity to make room for someone else. Now, has someone else actually come just yet? No, but there's room for him. There's room for him when he does. The other thing I'm thinking about is something that was really a very scary example. And this is a story that I've talked about often. However, I'll use it in the context of the vacuum law of prosperity. And that was getting rid of my job. That was the last full-time job I had. And because it was pre-COVID, I'm having trouble remembering if it was 2018 or 2019. Nevertheless, I got rid of it. Now, the vacuum law of prosperity doesn't mean that when you get rid of something that the path is clear for you to see how the new thing is going to come. And that's a great example. And by the way, at the time, I had not heard of the vacuum law of prosperity. However, I invoked it nevertheless, because when I left, it was very vague. When like I wrote my letter of resignation, or when also a couple of the people called like, hey, why are you leaving? What's going on? My answer simply was, because I want to be able to focus on projects. I didn't really know what kind of projects they were, and I was talking about whatever it was personally for me. And my dream of coaching had actually been put on the back burner for like 10 years. So coaching was not at the front of my mind at the time. But my point simply is, I knew I could not keep going in that job if I was to really move closer into my passion, closer to my purpose, closer to what I really wanted in life. And one of my values is that independence and that freedom. And I was not going to get it in that job where I was traveling over 80% of the time. Okay, so maybe you're wondering for yourself, how do I know when to apply this vacuum law of prosperity? I can't say that there is one simple formula, you do this and this will happen. That's not what I want to leave with you today. But one of the thoughts in terms of all these thoughts is, if what you desire, if the prosperity that you desire still has not shown up yet, it may be a sign that it's time to get rid of something. So, and I'm so trying not to put on my glasses, and I'm not. I'm just gonna move the notes closer to me. And so think about that. So let's do what I'm going to call a clutter check. And in doing a clutter check, I want you to actually ask this question. And this is usually the opposite of what I ask in my content. But what don't you want? What is it that you don't want in your life? And then think about, what is it that you're holding on to? And you can think of this in the natural. So we used clothing earlier, but we can also use furniture. Maybe you're looking at your old furniture in your home and saying, ugh, I don't want this. Okay, so are you letting go? What is it that you're letting go? Or at least you can even symbolize, let's say you still want to sit on a couch. However, what is it that you can let go to symbolize that you're open for making room for more furniture? So think of it in the physical sense. We can also think of it in... Okay, so this may be a little bit controversial. However, I'm still going to say it because it can happen. So we know that when we think about sickness, many times it's manifested through something emotional. So one thing I can say is I had colitis years ago, and I think I did a live. 2020 is when I had it, because it was, I think, around I guess around COVID times, and I got really sick with colitis. And in case you don't know what that is, that's when your lower intestines is inflamed and it hurts badly. I had medication, but anyway. So what's my point of describing that, and what does that have to do with the vacuum law of prosperity? I do believe I was holding on to stress. Some of you, especially, the Black queens who are watching this video, many of you, when you remember around May or so of 2020, I think it was like May or June, many of you were stressed out. Many of you experienced like trauma, emotional trauma, and I got sick as a result. So I had to begin to let go. So I want you to think about, what do you need to let go so that even you can make room for your optimal health? So basically now my lifestyle on the outside, it doesn't necessarily look any different. However, one of the things is I decided to do everything I can to get rid of stress faster and to not allow as many things to stress me out, because that illness really impacted me so much. Now, does it mean I've never gotten sick since? No, it doesn't mean that. However, I do the work to make room for my optimal health. So what about you? Sometimes it's forgiveness. Yeah. I've worked with someone before who needed to forgive. And when she actually forgave this person in which she had held, let's just say, a grudge against for years, she actually noticed it allowed room for prosperity in her life. She actually got deals. She had her own business and she got deals and contracts after she forgave. So what about you? In your life, might you invoke the vacuum law of prosperity for forgiveness so that you can make room for more prosperity in your life? Think about that. Maybe you need to also get rid of ideas, thoughts, and beliefs that could be blocking you from receiving the greater good or the greater prosperity you want in your life. Let's think about, remember, what are you holding on to? And not just what don't you want, but what is it that you're holding on to? So, Queen, are you holding on to thoughts, ideas, and beliefs? Because it's more than me saying that are not serving you, but it's actually what are the repercussions of holding on to these things? Well, you are blocking your blessings. I know that sounds a little bit cliche, but indeed, that's what you're doing. You are blocking your blessings. So we do this vacuum law of prosperity, and let's think about a way. And how do we seal the deal, right? We make room for these things, whether it's forgiveness, whether it's letting go of ideas and beliefs, ideas, thoughts, beliefs, whether it's actually physically letting go of clothing, furniture, or clutter, right? You were doing a clutter check. So after that space, spiritually, emotionally, physically, has been decluttered, how do you kind of seal the deal on this vacuum law of prosperity so that you can receive that which you desire and you can really become a magnet for those things? Well, just think about it in terms of just two things today. After releasing, then make a declaration. There is a Bible verse that says, declare a thing and it shall be established. So make a declaration about the thing you do want. You know, I am free. I am forgiven. I forgive. I release anyone in my life who I've held anything against. You know, make a declaration. I open myself up to the greater good. I open myself to greater prosperity. I open myself up to greater abundance. So make a declaration. Mine right now don't necessarily sound sexy because I did not write those down. However, make a declaration over the things you want. Why did you release those things in the first place? Make a declaration. Number 2, then act in faith. What might that look like? You know, do something that is a demonstration of your faith. And by the way, it doesn't always have to be something huge, but it is a demonstration saying that I believe. And remember, faith is being convinced of something that there is no evidence for. I'll say that again for the people in the back. Faith is being convinced of something that there is no evidence for. So act in faith towards the thing that it is that you desire. So I remember actually reading in another book, I think it's Francis Scovel Shin, The Game of Life and How to Play It. And it was something simple, like a woman wanted an apartment. And so she just purchased something that would go in it. It wasn't like a couch or something huge. It was like something small that would go into her apartment. But what was she doing? She was demonstrating her faith, or acting in faith. So today we have talked about the vacuum law of prosperity, specifically as it came out of the book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. And this is a book by CatherinePonder, very old book, but quite relevant in any given time. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and I want to hear your comments about what are you getting rid of, or what are you making room for, Queen. Until the next time. Oh, and also, in case you forgot, click the link below where you can download the free Alarm Clock of Destiny mini journal, where you can take your life to the next level right after you've invoked the vacuum law of prosperity. Okay, so I'll see you soon, either here or there. Talk to you later. Mwah. Bye, Queen.